Seriously, what would you do if you needed a paycheck in order to live? What would you seriously do without leaving the business? You would door knock every goddamn door. You'd call every single number.
That's true.
If that meant putting food on your table. So why should it be any different to achieving your goals? Basically, I'm a kind of guy that look, you came here, you have a goal. You're basically giving us 50% of your paycheck for us to help you get to that goal. Mm-hmm. Here's how you get to that goal. And if you're not doing the daily actionables that we need to require you to get to that goal, what are you even doing? So I'm a more just fucking do it.
Yeah.
Do it. If you're a new agent in a new market, what you need to do is you need to basically build your brand around that market and market to people who don't live in that market.
World-class lessons from the real estate industry's top 1%. Empowering agents to think bigger and do more to create life by design.
All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Light It Up Podcast. Our goal is to empower agents to think bigger and live a life by design. Today, we are joined by Andrew Perrie, who runs a top producing real estate team, the Fine Estate team. He's also a director of one of the fastest growing independent brokerages in Ontario. That's Revel Realty. Andrew is well known for generating approximately 85%, that's a big number, of his business from agent to agent referrals, and of course his strong social media presence. Andrew, thanks so much for being here today.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And just because I'm from Canada doesn't mean that I'm French, eh? Your little
Perrie?
accent, but yeah,
Perrie?
it's Andrew Perrie, but no,
Andrew Perrie.
Yeah, but no, I literally get that all the time. But you said our brokerage right, because even Canadians can't get our brokerage right. They'll call it Revel. It's it's everybody's trying to convert us, the English speaking to French speaking in our nation, I think.
Well, that was a pretty long intro, so I'm not going to do it over, but it's Perrie, guys. You got it?
Yeah.
Everybody?
Oh, yeah.
John, you sound very high pitched
Canadians
today.
are easy. Canadians are easy going, eh? So
Hey.
don't worry about that.
It sounds like you like a name that I would see on the back of the Montreal Canadiens.
Oh, no. My name's
Leafs?
only on the Leafs fans.
Well, I saw you are a hockey fan as well, right?
Yeah. I try to play as. I love hockey so much that I actually moved our office right across the street from the hockey arena.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's an obsession. That's a sickness.
So I managed. I used to be able to get in 5 skates a week, but it's down to 3.
Damn.
Yeah,
Is
man.
it crazy like the U.S.? Like if I were to join like a men's league, I'd have to play at like 10:30 at night.
Yeah, so I have 3 kids under 6, 3 boys. So my wife would literally kill me if I had, if I had to miss bedtime. So ours is actually in the afternoon, 12 to 1.
Oh wow.
Yep.
That's good.
Yep.
Is it like the U.S. where, the men's leagues that I've been a part of, it's all guys, like finance guys, that are pissed off at their colleagues. They go there. We play like 10:30 at night. People have a couple beers before, a couple beers after. You get on the ice, and they're literally pissed at their boss, pissed at their wife, pissed at somebody. And there's fights like once a week. Yeah.
Well,
and then you got to go to work with a black eye. It never happened to me, but
No, I've had that. It was by mistake. So just to get one thing straight, our league is 45, 50 years old. So some of the OGs are still playing, and our oldest guy was 75 at one point.
Oh, wow.
But our youngest
That's
guy
blue.
is like 19, right? So these are all old guys that still know how to play, can still skate around me, and so there's not a lot of aggression there.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of oops, yeah. And I had a huge black eye last year, a huge cut on my lip. So gotta watch out for those old guys; they'll get you.
They're filled with
chippy. They're
yeah,
chippy.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right.
Awesome.
Ready to jump right into it?
We'll go into the
Yes,
lightning
sir.
round.
Let's do it.
All right.
All right, so for those of you that have not seen this lightning round before, and by the way, this is episode 49. You missed the big milestone by 1, but we like to do this lightning round, real estate unrelated to real estate questions that will keep you on your toes. You going first?
No, go.
All right.
All right.
I like this one.
do
I
it.
hadn't seen this one in our set of questions before. What's something you did as a child that your parents still retell the story about?
Oh my God, dude. Okay, my parents are divorced, and when my mom got with my stepdad, he proposed after like 7 years. I don't know why it took him so long, and I was really rebellious. I lived in like what you would call the projects. and I was looking to start a fire. I had grabbed this random tissue paper from our kitchen and burned it, started the fire. That was a success. But what I found out was later, inside that napkin was my mom's engagement ring that she was getting sized. So,
Oh my
yeah,
God.
she still
6-7
tells that.
years for a reason.
Yeah, she still tells that story. But yeah, that was an interesting
At
one.
least when you lost the ring, you were doing something, really, really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
super productive for the community.
So not only did you start a fire, but you lost your mother's engagement ring.
Yeah.
Did you actually recoup the ring or find it?
We did. We brought a metal detector out and we found it.
Wow.
It was a $15,000 ring.
There is a silver lining there.
Or a gold lining.
Yeah.
Oh God, I had a similar experience when I was a kid. There's saltpetery. If you mix it with sugar and you cook it over low temperature, you can make smoke bombs. This is when you were able to Google shit before 9/11.
Yeah.
So I used to make all random kinds of concoctions. I forgot it on the stove. It literally blew up in the house. We had to evacuate. No joke.
Oh my God.
That's serious. I don't know why I'm sharing that. All right. What's one accomplishment you're most proud of?
I think about this a lot, and as you grow into bigger teams, your company grows. I think my biggest accomplishment is promoting our VP of Sales, Crystal Simons, from a space where she was still working a full-time job to 6 months later, being a full-time team member, to a year later being our VP of Sales, and eventually taking over my role. So I think that's my biggest accomplishment in the last 12 to 24 months.
Nice. Is it an accomplishment because she replaced you, or is it because you grew a person that went from not even, you kind of molded her in your own way?
That's a really good question, and in the way I've never thought about before. Where yes, my accomplishment is that I took a piece of me that I never really thought I had and was able to use it to help grow someone else.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that. Yeah, makes sense. I like that.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm surprised I came up with it myself.
All right. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Man.
That's a very general question.
No, it is, but if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. And the second best piece, I know you didn't ask for that, but I'm going to tell you, is what gets measured gets improved. And, those two together all come, in combination to, if you're not growing, you're literally falling backwards because everybody around you is in the business to take your market share away. And so I think about that every morning when I get up.
Yeah.
That's good.
So you're a grower.
Not a shower.
Perfect.
Or both.
What activity do you enjoy so much that you lose track of time?
Oh, man. Podcasting, interviews, speaking. I think one of these types of networking sessions is what I call them. Even podcasting is, it's great to have a conversation and try to put your name out there. But I think the fact that I get to sit here and meet you guys, the fact that I get your audience to listen to, some of my value that I have to bring, I think that's, one of those instances where it fuels me so much that I would be willing to drive 8 hours to come and see you,
Yeah. And to be honest, this was his idea to have it in the
It
actual
was.
studio.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I noticed that you did a lot of virtual, and I'm like, you know what? Let's switch things up here. Let me get down there.
Yeah, I think it was. I'm glad we got that extra push. Sometimes we just get comfortable with doing the virtual ones, but
Well, my problem with that too is we'll run sales calls or brokerage meetings, and I'm one of those guys. I'm kind of like Steve Carell from The Office, where my jokes are a little dry, and I need somebody to either laugh or give me some encouragement. And in Zoom, they're just like. Nothing, right? So
Did the line break? Is there a connection issue? No, that makes sense. You can feel the energy and the essence of the person way more when they're in front of you versus on a screen.
Absolutely.
And then sometimes when it's on a screen, you just end up staring at yourself the whole time. You're just like, do I really look like that in person?
And then it's mirrored, right? So you're like, wait, if I move that way, I'm actually moving this way.
Yeah.
It's a distraction.
It's just funny that we get in that habit. Even when we had Nikki on, Nikki was one of our agents. She's in Jersey City, about 6 minutes from here. She did it from her apartment. I don't know why we didn't have her come in, or Dan O'Neill, or any of the other people who are a little bit more local. But it is what it is. We're happy to have you here, man.
Love it.
You have another one or no?
That's it.
All right, I'll ask another one.
Sure.
If you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh man, that's a really good question. Robert Plant or Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin?
Legit.
I think the reason why is because, look, all the business stuff you can figure out. You can go on YouTube, you can hire a business coach, you can go through trial and error. But something as magical as music and what it means in bringing a new genre to the world, I think is something that is just, you can never learn that. So, just trying to inquire about those types of experiences, I think is almost invaluable.
Yeah, no, definitely priceless. There's Slash wrote a book from what's it called? Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
And they're absolute maniacs, right? Like drinking a liter of vodka, just destroying hotel rooms and doing all that stuff. I could picture you doing that.
Thanks, man. I have done that. I was actually in the music industry for a very long time.
Really?
Yep. Lead singer.
Your hair's not long enough.
Well, my tattoos kind of show.
Yeah, that is. So, is that how you connected with Leonetti?
No. I mean,
he's a big.
Yeah. He's a big rocker, which I love. But no, it was the fact that he was, shitting on agents that got me to reach out to him
That
and
was the
watch
big
more.
attraction.
Yeah.
Every time I see him, he's got a different band shirt on.
Yeah,
but,
no,
but,
I love it.
The hipster scene these days, you never know if they're actually like a music.
Yeah, no, he's legit for sure.
Yeah,
It's interesting because we all
Well,
three of us share the hockey thing and the rock thing in general, right?
Yeah, which is so interesting because the last podcast I was on, it was all rap and basketball.
There you go, man.
Yeah.
I can get down.
Well, I
I
feel
can
like
get down with
everybody,
that too.
everybody probably played hockey, growing up in Canada. But here,
Yeah.
there's very, very few of us.
Is there
Not
really?
very few of us, but like tri-state area's probably got a few. But like
Well,
up in
Foster
Boston,
Matthews could come out of friggin' Arizona.
there you go.
I'm
Yeah.
the only Arab that's ever played hockey, so that's a unique
Yeah.
trait in itself. So yesterday night, me and John were talking, and we were just preparing, going over everything.
Yep.
And what was really incredible about what you've been able to do, so you went from, you're working in a gym, then you went to Royal LePage for a year, then you started your own thing.
Yeah. Well, so Revel Realty I didn't create.
That was,
Right, but it was still so young that essentially I knew that I could leave my mark on the company, and the owners were so receptive to that, and that's why I made that leap. It had nothing to do with why Royal LePage or what Royal LePage did or didn't do. It had everything to do with the opportunities that were going to be provided to me at Revel. And so I kind of took that and I ran. I noticed that somebody who only was in business 2 years got their own office, and I said, if she can do it with Revel, I can do it with Revel. And within 2 years, I had my office. Then within 3 years, we had our second.
which is insane.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah. Imagine what you could do with EXP.
Well, yeah, everybody keeps telling me that.
Months ago, we weren't even considering EXP. We made the transition, and now I sort of think, oh, do people think that like we're gonna try to pitch them? And I'm like, we
like
would
you're
love
gonna
to
be pissing in the
collaborate.
stall coming
I'm not
next
even
year.
the guy who's gonna be at recruiting at any level.
Well, I think it
Anytime
makes
soon.
sense for those people in certain positions, in almost kind of what I'm in, where you've got a voice, you've got people following you, and the only thing that I don't necessarily like about building teams out that way is that I like to be very, very like the reason why I said let's drive down here.
Yeah.
And if I can't physically be there once a week, once a month, it's maybe something that I don't necessarily want to invest my time in just yet.
Sure.
But I mean, with LA Fitness, we just spoke over the phone too. So
Yeah.
But it's insane because there was, it's funny because I was actually, my coach makes me read U Squared every week. Have you ever heard that book?
No.
It's written by a guy named Price Pritchett. He talks about quantum leaps. So he's saying you don't need to go through the traditional, level 1, level 2, level 3.
agree.
You can just quantum leap if you look at things differently.
I got to read that book.
It's a great book. And the thing that's interesting about what you've been able to do is that like we've struggled in the past with trying to create systems, procedures, and we were like, why is it that as you grow, you start thinking about actually doing those things, right? But those are the fundamental things that would help you explode so much faster. But what you've been able to do, you've been doing it with a twist almost. So it's not like you had to take level 1, level 2. You almost had an opportunity. And they say success is being ready for the opportunity when it's in front of you. And you did that just based off of competitive nature because another lady did it and she was 2 years in the business.
Right.
So how did that look the first,
So the first time I started my team, it failed like miserably. Within 3 months, the people that I brought on, they all quit. So it was terrible. So half of it was through trial and error, but I think I've always been a person, like I don't even cut my own grass. Like I've hired somebody to take that off my plate so that I can focus on other things. So what I always say is that it's not how can I get there, it's who can help me get there the fastest. So while you guys were thinking about how to build systems and how to implement these processes, I was thinking about who can I hire to develop these systems, who can I hire to implement the systems. And once you take that approach, the sky's kind of the limit. You start leapfrogging everybody who's, still active in the business. I've got one guy who's number one in our board every other year, but the random time I'm out taking a buyer or driving by an open house, you'll see him sitting there. You'll see him bringing his buyers, and he's the number one on the board. That's fantastic, but that's still a job, right? Where the position that I'm in as a CEO, I get to travel and meet people and grow the brand. So I think to answer your question more directly, it's more of a who, not how, and that's kind of how you get there.
And did you know that from day one, or when did that actually become clear to you?
No, it was probably about just at the beginning of COVID. We had so many leads that I'm like, I can't physically deal with these people, and if I did, my original database would suffer. So then I had to start leveraging out licensed assistants first to help me with the paperwork, and that could also show houses, and then I moved on to hiring buyer agents.
It's beautiful because it's like when you get more attention, you can get more of a message out there when you actually want to be able to recruit the right people. Because I'm pretty sure it was probably rather easy for you to recruit the people that you needed for those roles.
No, not really.
No?
We had a lot of people reach out that, kind of were attracted to the brand, and it didn't necessarily work out that they were kind of the best people.
Yeah.
But, I lucked out with getting Crystal in our first round of recruits. But now it's funny because people come for the brand, but they stay because of the people, and it's not necessarily me. It's the culture that we've built inside the team.
We've spent so much money on a company called EOS to learn essentially what you're saying, create a culture, hire within core values, so that way when you're bringing people, they fit that core value, and the culture creates a life of its own. So that's pretty impressive. Is that something that you, as you were going through it, you're like, this is how I want it to be. This is the vision. You had a big picture, and you were slowly like, I'm working towards it, not deviating from it at all. Yep.
The big picture, law of attraction, whatever you want to call it, is real. And I think without, knowing where you're going and having a clear, descriptive vision of that, everything else you're just kind of flowing by the seat of your pants, right?
No, that's good. It's helpful because one of the biggest things today is that there's so many shiny objects that are out there. And it's so easy for your focus to get distracted and go through it. And not to go off on a loop, but earlier when I was saying mental fortitude, going through what you went through, trying to make a decision to go onto an independent office after, a year and change in the business, and then, failing after 3 months, not to like second guess that vision and say that maybe I was wrong, go somewhere else. That takes a lot of freaking mental fortitude to be like super committed to that.
Right. And keep in mind, all throughout that entire time, I'm having 3 kids. I'm investing not only locally, but internationally. I'm building out, 2 or 3 different podcasts, doing things for Revel in terms of recruitment as well. So my director role, I'm also meeting with new agents. I'm also meeting with new brokerage owners, meeting with new potential franchisors. So holding it all together is difficult, but without that clear goal, as we mentioned before, and what did you say? Mental
fortitude.
Fortitude. Yeah. I just think it's being a mental case. You know what I'm saying? To everybody, that I've ever talked to, my financial advisor, they know that my risk tolerance is high. But every time I do something, they're like, "Man, you've got big balls. Like, what are you thinking?" Yeah. But I like, money's money. What is this? Like, unless you're risking so much of your time.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, is the time. And if I have to invest years, hours, decades of my life, it better be worth it, for one. If I'm investing tens of thousands of dollars, what does that matter? That's just money, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's good. Bernie Gallerani used to always say, you're trading your time for money. Make sure you're spending your time wisely. So it's like, it's essentially your life, your money's worth. Yeah. No, that was good.
Yep.
In terms of delegating everything that you have on your plate and trying to replace yourself like you have with the role that you just filled, what do you go through? Like, what analysis do you go through in your business to get out of that?
Yeah, what's your process? Because I know when you and I connected over the last week, I think we were DMing about a book that you were reading called Buy Back Your Time.
Yeah, Dan Martell.
Which has he written anything else?
I'm honestly not sure. I had just came across the book through a friend, and when I read it so fast because literally I'm like, damn it, this guy beat me to it.
So you didn't pay somebody else to read the book?
No, that I didn't.
Got it. That was a dad. That was
I
a
do
dad
pay
joke.
people to read books. Report back to me.
Well, did you read the foreword? The guy's sounds like a mental patient.
Right. Well, the problem is that.
But I haven't read the whole book, so I don't want to.
Well, no. The thing is that what the real CEOs that are really looking to make an impact in their own lives and in other people's lives is that they do seem crazy.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to seem crazy, act crazy, and fulfill that craziness, then it's just all kind of smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in vein of what KIRO was asking, and where I was going with that book, tell us some of the ways that you've been able to buy back your time, or you've been able to build your company through leveraging other people. Is that through virtual assistants? Is that through just hiring the right people in the U.S.? Is it just making better use of your own time?
So we don't hire any virtual assistants. I like I said, I like people and I like to see them. I like them in the office every day. Even in COVID, I was like, look, even if there's just one person in the office, let's keep you there. But it starts from the very basics. Like literally, I hired somebody to cut my grass. My grass is maybe 60 feet wide by 80 feet, maybe. So $50 a week he comes in and he cuts the grass. But that opened up so much more time for me. Now I got to go get gas and pour the gas into the lawnmower and then start out the lawnmower and it doesn't start and I'm sweating and I don't want to do it anymore and it's making me angry. Or I could be using that time to train an agent, to make sales calls, to go show a property, to go on a listing appointment. So that starts there. Then it can start from something as simple as having somebody else post. I do all my own personal social media, by the way. It's just something that I do. But all the content that leads up to me physically pressing post is all outsourced. So having somebody take over your social media, having somebody taking over your sales meetings for your team. Like I don't run my meetings anymore. Our VP of sales does. I don't write any contracts anymore. My admin team does. I don't upload any transactions. My admin team does. And at the very basic level, that's where leaders, if you're watching, can get started.
Yeah.
I guess one question would be if let's say someone was with you from day one when you first started in the business, and I was to ask them, and they were to say the biggest difference they saw in you between year 1 and year 6, what would that evolution look like?
I think, and one of our agents, Paige, might beg to differ, but I think it was just the confidence to stick up for our standards and what I believe in, because at the very beginning, especially with my clients, what people don't understand about this business, and mainly because, let's face it, we're not doctors, we didn't go to school for 20 years, lawyers even, we didn't have to take the bar. We're still dealing with people's largest investment of their lives. So I think that realtors can lose that confidence by trying to tell a client what to do, where me as the professional, and that was me for the first couple of years of my business, where now it's like, look, Mr. Seller, you have to take this offer because another one's not coming in. Yeah. So negotiating with your own clients, when people say I'm a great negotiator, you're negotiating against another party that's representing somebody else. How good is that going to work?
Yeah.
Right? Because then if that other agent is no good at negotiating with their clients, then you're all screwed.
Yeah.
So the negotiations start with your clients. And I think the biggest thing that has changed in my career is being able to have that confidence to negotiate with my own buyers, my own sellers, and be like, look, here's the reality of what's going on. And if you don't act, this could potentially be the last opportunity for you.
Yeah.
And that's how we get deals done.
I just got off a call with a girl on our team, Fernanda, who's working with a buyer right now, and buyer wanted to put in a lowball offer like a lot of first-time buyers do.
Yep.
And not lowball, $15,000 below asking price. And one of the conversations we had with her, which I think is really powerful, one of my coaches gave me this years ago, was, well, first of all, selling, like we were always taught in Mike Ferrie, right? Selling's not telling, selling's asking questions.
Yep.
So if you find yourself constantly telling your client something, you're if you're talking so much,
I agree.
You're not doing right by them, or you're not doing, you're not working through the process correctly. But one of the exercises we went through with her client, the buyer that wouldn't want to increase their offer, was, can I share something with you? My biggest fear is that 3 weeks from now, you say to us, hey, how come you didn't push me a little bit harder to increase my offer? Because this truly is a great place. Yeah. It really is a great opportunity. She just needs to make a more realistic offer. But, I appreciate that approach. It's you have to also, I think it plays in with managing expectations as well.
In that story is exactly why I became so confident in talking to my clients that way, because I had a client, excuse me, this client, I was constantly saying, okay, hey, what do you want to do? We just submitted an offer, they've signed back, what do you want to do? And he's like, Andrew, I love you, but you're supposed to tell me what to do. He's like, I don't know. Is this house worth this money? I don't know. I just moved here. Yeah. It's your job to tell me what to do. And I was like, wow, that makes total and complete sense.
Yeah.
Would you consider yourself a great agent or a great leader?
If I had to choose between the two, a leader.
Yeah. So based off of the conversation topics that you've talked about, you can tell that you're an amiable personality type, right? Someone who cares, right? And someone who's more or less attached to emotionally invested in those situations. So your clients obviously feel like you cared, so they'll take your advice when you actually give it to them, right? Because you wouldn't speak unless you actually felt like you needed to in regards to the decisions you need to make. Right. Building out a team and getting agents in there. So after your first 3 months, when you said, you built a team and you failed, after that, when you took a different approach and you started building again, how many agents do you have right now?
Right now we're down to 6.
6. How long is the longest running agent that's been with you so far?
We have 1 at 3 years and 2 at 2 years.
Okay. And in terms of culture that you've created, would you say it attracts new people to want to come in, but then the effort and work that they have to put into it is what kind of weeds out the good and the bad?
I'd say so. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's essentially what you've been able to do is you took your personality style and put it into a leadership role, and it's flourishing in that aspect. And you could see it on social media, right?
Some people think I'm extremely cocky. Some people think I'm extremely humble. And honestly, I don't really know where I fall in. But here's the contrast. My first team that failed, it was all men. Now my team is all women. So is that something that maybe I, as a good leader, had instilled in terms of a culture? Or maybe is it the makeup of the individuals on the team that helped me create it? And so that's what I think about all the time, is I can't take the credit. And I just don't want, why I said cocky versus humble is that I feel like any of my team members watching this might be like, oh, he's full of shit. But I do think it's true. Maybe I don't express myself enough about that fact, but deep down, that's kind of how I feel.
I think it all comes down to core values.
Yeah.
Because
or personality styles, right? Your leadership strategies and style probably attracts certain people. I would probably bet that a bunch of the people on his team are similar personality styles. Maybe not to him,
right?
But they are similar,
right? And that's funny that you said that, because that's why another reason why I brought Crystal to her position is because we're here.
You ever study the 4 personality styles?
The disc?
Yeah.
Nah.
He's gonna tell me he doesn't like it.
Nah, I've done it a couple of times. I don't know. It could work. It could work. I'm not saying it doesn't work. Understanding people, but I've always been a good judge of character right from the get-go. So I feel like I don't need it. But basically, I'm a kind of guy that look, you came here, you have a goal, you're basically giving us 50% of your paycheck for us to help you get to that goal. So here's how you get to that goal. And if you're not doing the daily actionables that we need to require you that you need to require you to get to that goal, what are you even doing here? So I'm a more just fucking do it.
Yeah.
Do it. It's that simple. If you had to choose between life or death by simply just, bobbing yourself out of the water to breathe.
Yeah.
You can't come out of this situation, as a failure because you didn't do what is written literally out for you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I don't know. I think it comes back to a lot of times it's just you can't be more motivated. You can't want it more than they do.
Right, exactly. We're here to support, not force. And, where Crystal, when she comes in, is more of a, okay, so let's lay this out. Why didn't we hit our goal this week? And, I only made 10 calls as opposed to 50. I was a little tied up. Whereas me, it's like, okay, well, now you've got to make that up the next month. And if you're not making it up the next month, then you're not going to be able to hit your commission goals or your unit goals.
Yeah.
So having that contrast of, the yin and yang, I think is what makes our team successful.
Yeah, and it's also following core values. Like John and I share the same core values: coachable, someone willing to go the extra mile, someone who's dependable, someone who's willing to have fun in the environment that you put them in.
Yeah.
And the people who do fall into those core values fully and truly succeed.
You missed one. It's humbly confident too.
I actually
like
added that in the new one, by the way. Humbly confident. By the way, this is actually a really good reference because messy is the definition of humbly confident. I've learned how to define it. We fought for 3 hours over the core value humbly confident.
I'd love to buy back that time.
Couldn't have delegated that, by the way. So there's a author named Robert Greene. Do you know who that is? He wrote the 48 Laws of Power. He wrote Seduction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he was talking about how success is the most dangerous thing someone can experience. And the reason why it's dangerous is because the person starts thinking that they were responsible for it. And it wasn't because of the activities that they were doing. They're taking personal credit, not the activities.
Right.
Is that an ego thing?
It's an ego thing. So now you think that you're greater than everybody else, and then you start elevating. And the next thing you know, something can happen and you bust your ass and you're down, but that exposes you to that, right? Because you're letting your ego take control of that situation. Humbly confident is like you're confident in your abilities of taking action, but you're humble at the same point where you're not letting your ego take control and take flight. That's a commonality if you think about it. The things that you can create the greatest salesperson in your organization and write their core values, you'd see that everybody else probably shares the same kind of core values.
I agree. And just like, with COVID, I felt like majority of our agents, not necessarily our agents, but it's, especially on our board in Ontario as a whole, they were kind of allowing that busyness to go to their head. Yeah, I sold 100 houses last year. Yeah, but that was the busiest year ever. You should have sold 200.
Yeah.
And then, allowing that, exactly what you just said. Now this year, watch, half of those people won't even sell 10.
Yeah. Well, you have to look at the numbers you did last year or 2 years ago and say, did I do that was that because of my skills or was that because of the market?
Right. It was a market-driven market. It wasn't skills-based. This year is going to be skill-based. So you better have some damn skills.
Yeah, so go a little deeper on that. What are some of the things that you're doing within your team to make sure that everybody's up to par on skills?
We added an additional accountability session a week. So that's 4 extra a month. So Tuesdays is we break it down. What is your goal for the week? Okay, here's your daily actionables. On Friday, we have an accountability session. Those daily actionables, where are you to hitting your goals? Well, you know what? We're right on track. Great. We'll see you next Tuesday, and we'll, look over the goals. You know what? I'm very, very slow. I had a sick daughter at home. I had to do this. I did whatever. Okay, great. So now we're going to take this Friday appointment and use it as an adjustment period so that by Tuesday, you're back on track to your goals. Yeah. So back to the basics. I know everybody says that. I know Eric from Broke Agent is, he made a couple of memes about making fun of that. Marry the house, date the rate, top things agents say, back to basics. But it's so freaking true. Seriously, what would you do if you needed a paycheck in order to live? What would you seriously do without leaving the business? You would door knock every goddamn door. You'd call every single number.
That's true.
If that meant putting food on your table. So why should it be any different to achieving your goals? That's what I was meant to say when I fucked up there.
Do you know the name Haas Pratt?
No.
He wrote this book called The Listing Boss.
You guys read so much books, more than me. Holy shit.
I've just talked about the 2 that I've read, but no. KIRO's really good at starting books. So if you ever do like a Zoom with him, he's got 1 million behind him. I'm gunning you because you laughed at me. But no, Haas Pratt has a book called The Listing Boss. We had him on a couple episodes ago, and he was talking about one of, I think, his first month in the business. He listed something like, or maybe his first 40 days, he listed something like 30 FSBOs. But we asked him, why were you able to do that? And he goes, because I didn't think that was weird or out of the norm. He's like, I didn't know what the norm was, so I just did it. You know, and it's just like when you think of it that way, it's so different, you know?
No, I
He's
love
like,
it.
Like, until you know that if you were to take, like, let's just say, to take 5 FSBOs would actually be a lot in 1 month, until you know that would be a lot, then you don't think that 30 is crazy, right?
Well, even still, like, it comes back to that whole doctor-lawyer situation where, you know, if you're doing your best to sell a house for the commission, you're thinking from a sales mindset, which is not terrible, but if you're truly thinking of, you know, from a service mindset, you look at a FSBO. Okay, so there's a customer, a client that's looking to sell their home, not having any luck. I'm just going to reach out to them and see if they need any help selling.
Yeah.
So that's a service mindset. Not most people stop themselves because they're thinking from a sales mindset.
Yeah.
We're like, oh my God, this guy's going to say no. You know, we're not going to be able to make it happen. I'm not going to make my money. And I think that's the biggest difference.
One of the things that we're trying now in our team, and I'll report back and let you know if we're having success, is to sort of divide and conquer, right? So for the first quarter of this year, we're going to have 1 agent solely focused on expireds, 1 agent solely focused on FSBOs, another agent solely focused on probates, and then next quarter they're all going to switch so that they all get an equal turn to learn different sectors. And we were talking this morning specifically about for sale by owners, and I was thinking about my coach, Kathy Anderson. I had her for years. She was one of the best coaches I've ever had. She would always, I can hear her in my mind saying, would it be helpful if? Would it be helpful if? So we were supposed to play a little game today to see how many times somebody could say that while we were prospecting this morning. And if you're coming from a place of value, right, you should try to build that into your prospecting script, right? So anytime you're talking to a seller, would it be helpful if? Would it be helpful if? And if you're just constantly just giving them so much value, what I have found is that eventually they'll hire you, right? Like specifically with a for sale by owner, it's like, hey, here's 3 things that you can do this weekend. This is an agent talking to a FSBO, right? To give them value.
Yes.
Hey, here's 3 things that you can do this weekend to get your home sold. I'm going to give you an open house sheet. Do you have a sign-in sheet, Mr. Seller? Most people would be like, why would you give the seller a sign-in sheet? What I'm suggesting is give him your sign-in sheet. Take your logo off of it, and you have to remind him, hey, when people come, make them sign in so that you can follow up with them. All the things that we know that we need to do. Second, Mr. Seller, what I think you should do, if you want to get the home sold, of course, print 75 flyers and go knock on all the doors in the neighborhood. You want to make sure everybody in your neighborhood knows about the house, right? Most sellers would be like, 75 doors? What are you, crazy? But what's beautiful about it is you're indirectly telling them what you would be doing if they were to hire you. You know, put out open house signs. I know agents who have actually lent a seller, not their branded signs, but just like those shitty ones you get from Home Depot. Signs. Here's signs. Here's an open house sign-in sheet. And here's, you know, a strategy to knock 75 doors. Give them all that value. And I think eventually, if you give that value to enough people, they will come back to you and be like, all right, enough is enough. I understand what you're going to do. If I were to hire you, we're pulling the cord. You're hired. So long-winded story, but I think if you were to give so much value to people, you get paid in direct correlation to the value you provide.
But if you break it down, that's, I mean, at the core end of it, that's why we do events, right?
Yeah.
You know, even at our brokerage level, we do a skills camp, a tip-off, and a rookie camp. The rookie camp is designed to provide information for new realtors, people who aren't in the industry yet but are thinking about it. And at the end, you know, just a 5-minute pitch about our brokerage, and then that's it. And, you know, those people at least always come back for a conversation.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with FSBOs. You know, we don't do a lot of FSBOs. Honestly, that whole market in Canada makes up less than 1% of our market share. So we don't have to worry about that so much. We just have to worry about other agents, which is a whole nother conversation and podcast.
Yeah, well, actually, just to give you credit, you're in the most competitive marketplace in terms of agent count. Isn't that right, or is that Toronto?
So Toronto has like 50,000 agents plus the surrounding towns, right? Which is nothing compared to New York.
Yeah.
So we're in Niagara. So yes, you're right in a sense where our board has just under 1,600.
Okay.
But all of that 60,000, because we're only an hour away, they all are listing properties in our area and not listing them on our board and all this other crap. And people feel like, oh, if you list with the Toronto, which is not, hey, this is what you want to do with your business, that's what you want to do. But people will list from Toronto in Niagara. They won't even list it on our board's MLS.
Would you say these Canadian agents are more or less competitive than?
Here's the thing. I've thought about this a lot based on my time with LA Fitness, based on, scripting, based on American coaches. I find that like a lot of the way, and I'm surprised it works so well because you guys all do it so much. But like these scripts like don't necessarily work in Canada all that much. There's some basic principles from what you guys are talking about. Like, so I'll do like, hey, Mr. Buyer, I don't know if this house is for you, but, right? So we do stuff like that, but I don't know what it is. Canadians, as passive as they are, they're more in tune and they're more educated on the market, I guess.
They're smarter is what you're saying.
I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that at all. I just think that the way you have to talk to a Canadian is so much different than the way you talk to an American.
Well, you just add A.
No. Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The realization.
Bring in some Timbits and
well, they must be smarter though if you said there's less FSBOs, right?
Well, there you go. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's just, I would say the impression I get from everything you talked about, it's about authenticity more than anything else.
Exactly. And even still, even some of my American coaches just say, look, ditch the script.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with podcasts. It's the same thing with speaking. I don't go in and prepare anything. I go in and speak what I'm passionate and I know about. And, when I'm talking to buyers and sellers, hey, if I could have memorized every single script that, you guys memorized, would I be able to close more deals? Probably. But my clientele is also different. Most of my personal clientele is over 60. So it's like, I'm not saying easier, but it's just, they're in a transition in their life where it just makes my job a little bit more easier because I'm just pointing them in the right direction.
Yeah.
Would you agree with the following statement? It's better to be more known than better skilled in sales.
So I would say yes. And that comes back to a good friend of mine, Tom Story. Visibility versus ability. Fake it till you make it, whatever the hell you want to talk about, or however you want to name it. That's kind of how I grew my business in the first 2 years is where, and what I, try to preach to new agents is like, look, if you're a new agent in a new market, what you need to do is you need to basically build your brand around that market and market to people who don't live in that market. Don't market to locals.
People that are moving into it.
Yeah, and more importantly, which is more easier and cost effective, is to market to other agents outside the market because they don't know how long you've been in business. They don't know how long you've lived there. All they know is that you're talking about how the best pizza on Main Street is. Or who's got the best pizza on Main Street? Who's got the best chimney cakes, the best bakery, the best grocery store, all of that stuff, right? So if you're putting out videos on a daily basis, weekly basis, promoting businesses, charities, community events, outside markets are going to notice you and want to call you because of that.
So I think in closing, I'm surprised we haven't touched on this just yet. In my fabulous intro that I delivered, aside from calling you Perrie,
at least it wasn't Pierre.
That's a good
Pierre.
point.
No, I wrote it myself. If somebody else wrote it would probably say Pierre. Generating approximately 85% of your business from agent to agent referrals. Are those within Canada? Are you picking off certain cities that you feel a lot of people that are moving from those cities are moving to Ontario?
You know what? We about 99% is from within Canada. All the way from the East Coast in Nova Scotia, all the way to the West Coast in BC. We've had a couple from California, Arizona, Austin, Texas, Florida somewhere, and even Australia.
What percentage of, I'm an analytical if you couldn't tell, of your agent database have you actually met?
Oh, man.
Like I'm just wondering, I'm just trying to picture this.
Maybe 20%.
So would you say you're creating these relationships through social?
Yes. It all.
So you're building an agent-to-agent database.
Exactly. So it's the fake it till you make it, or the perception, or the ability versus visibility. That means something to not just buyers and sellers, but also to other realtors. Like for example,
are you still faking it?
No. No, like, dude, I used to wear a suit every single day. Now I wear stretchy shirts, stretchy cotton blazers, and stretchy pants. I don't look like a homeless person anymore, but I don't look like a Ryan Serhant either. I just, want to do what's comfortable. But for example, let's just say this podcast, right? Had I not looked you up on Instagram or whatever, let's just say you had 500 followers. That wouldn't have mattered because all I would have seen was the production quality of the studio.
Yeah.
And that to me means more value because for this instance, I can take these cut-ups from this podcast that we're doing and put them into my audience, and then everybody's like, wow, look at that nice, beautiful studio. It's the same thing when trying to promote your brand to other agents for your market.
100%.
Yeah.
One epiphany that you gave me, or that I've gained through this episode is, we were always taught in sales that your database, if you have 100 people in your database and you nurture them, right, you're stay front of mind, you're supposed to generate at least 10%, right? So out of 100 people, you should transact with 10. So right now, by you focusing on your database and building out the people, your audience, more or less, you're able to transact with a certain amount that you engage with and follow up with. So you don't need to learn how to hunt for new business because you're giving your attention to your database and building that and nurturing that.
That's right.
So your backyard of diamonds is just flourishing. So it's a different kind of perception, I guess, in the way that we were raised in the business. Because let's say you're in the business, you have 200 people in your database. You nurture them like crazy, you do 20 deals. But now your goal is to do 50. You need to go supplement and buy leads from online or hunt for business from other sources to compensate for the 30 that you're missing, and then add them to your database. Now you need to constantly look for new business.
He's more analytical than me.
So there's nothing wrong with that strategy, and it's something that I obviously am conscious of. But if you imagine, like social media should not be a lead generation tool. It's your database. Think about it that way. And so think about, what's your friends, close friends, acquaintances, what would you say is your largest fear, like in numbers? Like how many people do you think you talk to within a month? Friends, family?
30, 40.
100, 40, 200?
Friends and family, very slow, very low.
Right? So think about that, is I converse with all these agents just naturally every month, all the time. My DMs are blowing up from other agents just asking for advice. Hey, what lead generation company do you use? Hey, who's shooting your podcast? Hey, what type of camera do they use? Everything, and some of it doesn't even have to do with real estate. Like, hey, where's the best hotels to stay at? And just aside from that, in all my daily conversations with these agents, doesn't have to be complicated. You could break it down by your KPIs. You could break it down by saying, okay, I got X amount of referrals, so I want to focus on that. But these are agents too. They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care that you're reaching out to them. They just want their paycheck.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I feel like I've always, I would say when calling my database, sometimes I struggle with some of the people that are not necessarily business savvy, or maybe said better, my friends or people that are in my database that are business professionals or other salespeople understand when I'm prospecting or nurturing or calling my database. They get it. They're like, dude, you're my guy. When I'm ready, I'll call you. So it must be, it's just a different animal to nurture a database full of salespeople.
Yeah,
right?
it's because
they probably respect it and they appreciate it.
Well, no, it's
and not that all of it is so intentional.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. So then that's a better word.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's funny that you brought that up because some salespeople will hang up on a random cold call and be like, "Hey, look, buddy, I'm an agent too. I know what you're doing." Where I am like, "Oh yeah, what about this? What about that?" So I'm now dissecting them because that guy who's cold calling you could be your next realtor.
Next hire, yeah.
Right? Or if they're really good, I'm taking what they said and using it on my next calls. Right?
I'm like, bro, come on, give me another objection.
Yeah.
Or I'm giving him another objection, but
No, that's valuable. It's funny because when you look at when you were saying your biggest accomplishment was growing the girl on your team into the role she is today. So you were developing that person. So you can see that you find joy in building up people that reach
absolutely.
out. If you got paid to do that would make you really happy, right? So you should really consider one of these revenue share companies because that's all a lot of different people do. But that's like, there's an immense amount of value that you would be able to share.
yeah.
And just one part, I guess this will be my last question, then you could take over, John. With the way that you saw the opportunity 5 years ago that was available for you to jump in and kind of create your own thing within Rebel, where do you see the next chapter going in the next 5 years? What do you see the outlook being, and what are you planning on doing to actually constantly keep leveling up and moving forward?
Yeah, so, like you said, with the leapfrogging thing, exponential growth is really important to me. So within 5 years, I would want to have multiple locations in either multiple provinces. That's what we call states in Canada, or international, like in the States. Growing out my role where I'm not selling whatsoever. So even when I started the team, after that first year, I was no longer working with buyers. Now, after my second year, I'm no longer working with sellers independently. I brought on Crystal as my co-listing agent for every single listing. So by 5 years, I certainly will not be working with clients on a day-to-day basis, making that internal connection, of course. But that's where we see it. Working on a book, more speaking gigs, and just becoming that international brand is the next 5-year plan.
Nice. I'm excited
Awesome,
to see
man.
that grow, man.
Thanks, man.
Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I think
welcome.
people will certainly find that valuable.
I hope so.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man.
I'm kind of pissed that time flew by. I'm not going to lie. And the funny part is that ChatGPT had 15 questions for you over here, but it is what it is.
Yeah, you know what? You go through all that, and the conversations never, flow, right? So, and then when you do, you don't need it.
There you go. All right, man.
What's the best way for someone to reach out to you if they want to get in touch?
Just at the Andrew Perrie on Instagram. That's the easiest way to get hold of me. I follow back. I answer all my DMs. Let's do this.
Cool. Anything that you're working on that people should know about?
Just keep an eye out for the book. I can't explain a lot about it. I've kind of dipped my toes in on a wine book with my dad, so you can look out for that in the spring. But
Nice.
My book has nothing to do with wine, unless it's about how many deals I've lost and I drank myself into a coma with wine.
A lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Thank you so much for being here.
All right. Thanks, guys.